What is going on, Junkie Nation? Special treat for you. He's back. Big Daddy Cokes, a.k.a. Scott Coker, President and CEO of Bellator. Bellator's got a busy weekend. In fact, a 5-week stretch starting with last week's Bellator 277 card, which we will recap with Scott. And, of course, the two shows in Hawaii. They're going to Paris. They're going to London. A lot of stuff going on, Scott. You're definitely adding the air miles.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is the time where we have so many fighters under contract, so many great fighters under contract. We have so many great fights that we want to put together. And so the schedule just kind of rolled out like this. I mean, it's a very busy time, but you know what? I think the staff loves being here in Hawaii, especially, right? They get to go to Paris, they get to go to London. You know, it's like you get to see the world and put on these amazing fights. And so to me, it's been a lot of fun, but you know, these are some serious events we had starting with last week in San Jose. That was a crazy fight. It felt good to see San Jose, basically full and passionate and loud. And I'm not sure if you could hear through the broadcast, but you know, they brought their A game, man, and they were really passionate fans, and yelling and screaming and cheering, and it was nice because I mean, listen, let's face it, that's where MMA, as far as in my past, that's where it all started. Javier Mendez fought in 26 or 28 years ago. Javier Mendez fought against a guy named Marek Piotrowski in kickboxing at the San Jose Arena. And we opened it up in 1994 on on April 15th. So that was the anniversary. And then how many great fights, and you guys have been around. It's like, hey, how many great fights have we done that? Not just the first event in the history of California. We did the first MMA fight with Frank and Gracie, but you talk about Fedor versus Fabricio Verdum, the iconic fight of Cyborg versus Carano. And then think about the trilogy of Thompson versus Melendez. I mean, what a great trilogy that was. All amazing. And then Frank versus Kung. You could not hear yourself in that stadium on that day. I think we had 16,000 people. So to me, it's, that to me is like like a history of MMA. A lot of the great fights in especially my past have happened in that building. So to have the AJ fight against Pitbull in that building, I thought it was gonna be iconic, and I think that this one will go down in the history books to the next fight, which I hope happens one day before the end of the year or early next year at some point, because I do believe that if we can work out the weight thing with AJ trying, I know he wants to move up. I'd love to run that one back because I think that fight deserves to have a trilogy.
Well, do you think it's worthy of an immediate trilogy, or do you understand him maybe wanting to do the route of the brother and then maybe train the younger brother up, or like, are you feeling any of that, or are you like immediate at 45?
Well, I think that it's really going to be up to AJ because he's the fighter. But when he's told me he wants to go up in weight, but maybe he might want to stay at 45 to run it back with Pitbull. So we just haven't had a real conversation about that because the fight was on Friday and Sunday I came straight here. So I haven't had a chance to talk to him or his dad. But if he wants to do it, we definitely will not say no because we think that they should run that fight back. Now, listen, there's a lot of other fighters in the weight division that deserve to be in there as well. So, depending on what AJ wants to do, we'll figure it out. But we have some big fights in that division for Pitbull. I think that, when Adam Borix was somebody that put on a great fight against Mats Burnell about a month ago. I think he definitely deserves to be in that mix. I think that you guys started mentioning Aaron Pico's name in that mix because he had, he's been on a great run. So we'll see what happens, but there's nothing final about any of it. But I'm hopeful that we can put some great fights together here within the next 4 or 5 months.
Can you explain to me possibly, because this is what you'll hear from fans and media, McKee's stock dropped, but I believe McKee's stock also went up because now a rivalry potential, epic trilogy has been created. And of course he can go up in weight. I know obviously staying undefeated is super important, but at the same time, when two fighters can collide like that and you can get 2-3 fights out of them, we just mentioned Melendez and Thompson. To me, that would strike me as stock also can go up in that instance when it's a great fight. There's no losers.
Yep. You're right, and I think that this is the same case because now they're 1-1, and now they have a big trilogy fight. There's going to be a ton of interest. Everybody's going to want to watch it, and I do believe you're right. It'll elevate their stock, elevate their brand moving forward.
Turning the page this week, you have two shows in Hawaii, and there's title fights. I love it, but I'm a Grand Prix guy. We were talking Pride earlier before we started the interview, and of course, we saw a lot of Grand Prix in that promotion. Now this one, you're down with the 135 pounders, the bantamweights, and I wanted to ask you, can you talk about Horiguchi? What a star this guy is and could even become. No disrespect to Patrick Mix. We're not making a prediction here or anything, or even the other two, some of Archuleta and Stotts, but I imagine that Horiguchi has a little bit of that appeal that where he can blow up and he can reach that Pitbull and McKee level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, here's a kid that when he was fighting out his UFC contract and he was a free agent, I went to try to sign him in Bellator years ago. And he said, look, I appreciate the offer. Thank you. I respect everything, but it's nothing personal. It's nothing against the company, but I need to go back and I need to help Japanese MMA. And that's what he did.
Wow.
He went back and he said, and it wasn't about money because we started talking about money and then, money started going up. But in his mind, he was like, no, thank you, because it's not about the money. I need to go help rebuild Japan because Japan is hurting right now. And so he was fighting for his country and fighting for the cause, which, I just had no answers for because, I only had single fights for him against, ranked opponents or for a title. But, he was fighting to rebuild martial arts back into his country. So, then that expired, and I think he did a great job because now if you look at what Sakibara has done with Ryzen compared to where it was 3-4 years ago before Horiguchi got there, he was really one of the main stars that helped build that program for him. I mean, for Sakibara for the last 4 or 5 years. But now that he's free and he's able to fight for us, it really excited because I love his style. I mean, here's a guy that, he's unorthodox. He moves a lot. He does a lot of things that are off angle, not so much just straightforward, trying to punch and throw bombs. And he can hit you from any angle. He's fast. He's elusive. I've seen him come off cartwheels and punch people in the face. I mean, it's just the stuff that he does is just bizarre. He did get caught against Pettis. Got to give it to Pettis. That was a technique he was planning on throwing, and he hit him, caught him. And now we have the big tournament. So this tournament on Friday night, free for the military and the first responders here in Hawaii. You're going to see an opportunity for the wild card fighters. And then whoever wins these fights will get to fight in the real tournament on June 24th at the Mohegan Sun. And then you have Stotts against Archuleta, our former champ. Those guys have been jawing that back and forth at it a little bit. So I'm excited to see what happens and who's going to step up. And then, with Mix versus Horiguchi, it's going to be a really, really good fight. I'm really looking forward to it. I think that the urgency of having these tournaments is something that I think people love because if you win, you go forward and you continue fighting. And eventually, if you win the whole thing, you'll get $1 million prize money on top of your normal purses. And if you lose, then you go back to kind of square one and starting to work your way back up. And the nice thing of this tournament is because Pettis isn't in the tournament and he got injured and he's going to be out for, let's say a year, we're going to do this tournament and try to finish by December or January. And then the winner of the belt for the Bantamweight Championship tournament will eventually fight Pettis. So Pettis is going to sit there in the wings and get healthy, get back to fighting probably by end of the year. And their first opponent will be the tournament champ. So a lot of great fights ahead for this division.
Scott, I apologize. I should have done my homework for this, but when you pointed out that, I knew Pettis was out, but thinking back, usually the champ defends along the way. Is there any consideration for making these 3-round fights? Or are they staying at 5? What are you guys going forward with the tournament now?
Oh, it's going to be 5-round fights.
5-round fights. Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be 5-round fights, and we're gonna continue the 5-round fights. And one of the things about the 5-round fights is uh, when these guys, actually the fights that are happening on Friday with the wild cards, I believe those are 3-round fights. So those will be, the fight with Barzola against Nikita. Is it Nikita? Nikita. Yeah, Nikita. Yeah, that will be a 3-round fight. But the fights on Saturday will all be 5-round fights. So
Okay.
we're gonna keep it the way it is.
Scott, when you look at the big board, when one of these Grand Prix starts and you look at all the names, there's really nothing like this in our sport and even in other sports. The closest thing I think comes to is maybe March Madness, because just anything can really happen in a Grand Prix. But without telling us who or anything like that, but when you kind of look at it and have your idea of what you feel like, you're almost filling out your own bracket. How close do you ever get? Is there one tournament that stands out that just completely shocked you and compared to what you actually thought would play out?
Boy, that's a good question. I mean, when we did the first tournament for Bellator, it was the heavyweight tournament, and I didn't know what to expect, but when Bader fought Fedor in the finals, he clipped him and knocked him out, finished him. I thought that was a little bit. I thought Fedor would have a better chance on striking against Bader than he did, and so I think that was a little bit of a upset in my opinion. But when I think about the 170-pound tournament, I think that that was, man. You talk about just the names in that tournament. You had Lima, you had Daly, you had MVP, and you had just a bunch of killers in this tournament. And now that we're at the bantamweights, this might be the deepest roster of fighters we've had in one division. When I think about the tournament at the 135-pound weight class, so even though we've had injuries, we've been able to replace them with these, let's say, wild card fights. And like you said, it makes it interesting, and they can continue and go in. But the tournament's had so many amazing, finishes or some amazing upsets, some amazing fights that you just never know. Like, you never know what's going to happen. I mean, when I think about Lima knocking out MVP the very first time, I think that surprised a lot of people too. It was, the way he went down. I was like, whoa, this is nuts. And it's just, in MMA, you don't know. But with the tournament, because there's such a finale to it, if you're out, that takes the stakes up a whole nother level.
Scott, moving on to Chris Cyborg. That's somebody that I wanted to talk about because we kind of analyzed this a little bit earlier in the day. And I wanted to ask you, do you feel like now with Amanda Nunes suffering a loss, all the Kayla Harrison talk, do you think Chris Cyborg will come in maybe with a little bit of a chip on her shoulder and be even more aggressive to really cement her place here in history in this fight?
Yeah, I mean, I think so, but I can tell you how I feel about it. Look, she's already done all the work. And, people talk about Kayla Harrison now, but Chris Cyborg has been doing this since 2008. She fought for me in 2008, I think a couple times. And 9, she fought Gina Carano in 2009. So think about how long ago that was, right? And she had the upset loss to Amanda Nunes. But when you look at the entire body of work for the last, 15 years, no one has done more, than she has. And, maybe Kayla one day will be great. And I think she will be. But, talk to me in 10 years is what I have to say about that. Because, until, they started fighting and winning and creating their own legacy, to me, nobody has done more for female mixed martial arts and have been more successful in female MMA than Chris Cyborg.
Scott, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. We definitely look forward to this weekend. We got Bellators back-to-back on Friday and Saturday. We got Velasquez defending her title, Cyborg. We got the Grand Prix. And then, of course, I know you guys head for London and Paris. And one thing I'm excited about with Paris is the fact that you brought in Bader and Congo. Right from that night, I was already pumped up, and that pays off. here in a few weeks. So thanks for doing that. Hopefully you guys do more of that. Thank you as always, and we hope to talk to you again soon.
Yeah, I have one thing I want to say is in Paris, we have a big semi-main event between Melvin Manoff fighting Yoel Romero. And I just want to let everybody know that this will be Melvin Manoff's last fight. He is going to take the gloves off after this fight.
Oh,
So
wow.
he's going to bring it. He's going to fight as hard as he can, and the gloves are going to come off, and he's going to walk away. And he's done everything in this sport, man. I met him in 2000. He was fighting for K1 in 2000. So maybe 2005 or something for, but he's been around a long time, and I'm excited to see his last fight live. But win, lose, or draw, he said this is it. So if you want to see him, come to the Diversity Arena in May in Paris and come watch Melvin fight his last fight.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And
Okay.
again, have a great weekend. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.